What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode on the Broom Radio podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm Julie, tender here in the metaphysical garden known as the Broom. And I'm joined with Zenshine and Peter Marks, a psychic astrologer for a dojo. If you'd like to support this container and other containers like it, you can hop on buymeacoffee.com/thebroomradio/membership, and you can either become a member through there or just simply donate. And thank you for listening. Theresa or Peter, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Want to go first, or should I go
Teresa?
first? Hi, everyone. My name's Teresa. I have a mobile metaphysical business called zenshine. I do psychic medium readings. I work with custom crystal jewelry. I sell crystals, do workshops, classes, podcasts, and host events that are rooted in spiritual, personal, and professional development. Peter?
My name is Peter Marks. I am a professional psychic, astrologer, medium. I work with spirit guides. I've been in private practice for over 35 years. And many of my clients are household names from all over the world, including Hollywood. And I enjoy helping people, and I enjoy assisting people on becoming all they can become in this lifetime.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Before I dive into some questions, I'm just going to open the space if anybody live wants to introduce themselves. I could read anything in the chat too. If no one wants to unmute. Nobu in the chat says, I'm Nobu. Nobu.
Hi, Nobu.
And Hoda says, yes, I'm Hoda. It's nice to meet y'all.
Hi, Hoda. Nice to meet you. Thank you for sending us all the links and taking good care of us.
Okay, so I have a couple questions here. I'm trying to feel into which I want to start with. I guess we'll start off with how you guys met. Like, how did you guys meet each other, and what made you guys want to collaborate with one another?
Peter, you want to start first, or should I?
I guess, why don't you start off and I'll interject and I'll add my information after you're done, dear.
Okay. So Peter and I had a mutual friend that we were asked to go and do a podcast with. We winded up meeting on the podcast, really enjoying each other's energy and the exchange that we had. We had kept on with each other's contact information, and we found ourselves sending messages to each other, or, hey, do you feel the energy today? Just having conversation. And then we found ourselves talking more frequently. And in those conversations, we really felt that our energy aligned. We wanted to we're very creative people, and we always want to be busy doing something. And I have Peter has worked in astrology for such a long time, and I respect and love all the knowledge and wisdom he has over different metaphysical subjects. And I've studied like spirituality related subjects since I'm 5 years old. I've been working with crystals since I'm 3 years old. And someone like Peter I can talk to him about anything and everything, and nothing's off the table. So we said, our conversations sound like podcasts. We should just bring it live and share it with people, so we can share in the conversations we have, but also share the knowledge that we've accrued, because there's a lot of people out there looking for different guidance or have questions about spirituality. And I think the age gap between Peter and I is helpful, because someone like Peter has been around in the scene of spirituality when like as or before Richard Simmons wrote the first metaphysical crystal book in the 1970s. So at the same time that Robert was writing that book and spirituality was growing in the United States, Peter had a front row seat to it, which is such a privilege that I can only kind of vicariously live through him. And learn about people that he knew I was reading about, but he actually knew them. So I think it just fit really
Right.
cleanly.
Yeah, I concur with you, Teresa. We actually the connection with this mutual friend wasn't totally congruent with where we both were heading and what we wanted to achieve. And we lovingly both decided that we were going to start at the inception working together in order to create a podcast. And years ago, I wanted to just interject this. Years ago, I actually went to one of the most famous psychics in New York City. She was very well known, and she worked with law enforcement, and she was considered the queen of psychics. And back then, she said to me, "One day you're going to end up connecting with a woman." She didn't give me the name, she gave me the initials. And I have been
Mm.
waiting for years and years. And I finally said, "God, when is this going to unfold? I'm here. Use me as a tool, use me as a conduit." And then when I met Teresa, it finally clicked. And I said, "This is the person that I'm supposed to be working with."
Yeah,
Wow.
it's very natural between us.
Is it was it the initials that psychic said?
The initial she gave me, she was accurate. Yolanda actually introduced me back then to all of her friends in Hollywood, including Elizabeth Taylor, Tony Bennett, and Liza Minnelli. And she said to me, "One day you're going to be more famous than I am."
Wow. That's really
So
fascinating.
yeah, I'm not in this for the fame, Julie. I'm not in this for the fame. I'm actually in it because there was a calling, and I think Teresa and I have very similar callings, even though there's a chronological age gap with us, but in soul form, we're at the same. We share the same parity and the same solidarity and the same mindset. We have different views on things, but we talk them out and we compromise.
Mm. Who says in the chat, was there beef between the mutual friend that you guys had?
I think it
One
was
that.
really more about alignment and not beef. I think that when you get to a certain point in life, after you've gone through a lot of different types of experiences, you don't want to be in a false narrative, or you don't want to be out of alignment. Especially like the more you follow your spiritual practice and your path, want to make sure that the people you keep yourself around alignment with you and what you want to do. We were able to like say, you are more in a social scene, you have a lot more responsibility in these areas, you don't really have time to take this seriously, but to us this is life, and we can't imagine a life that doesn't include this and taking this seriously. So I think that it was very
Mm.
I think it ended very amicably with understanding and a kind of consideration towards each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's no discord. There was no subterfuge. There was no falling out. The three of us, I think, our other friend had a different trajectory, a different path. She's a very busy woman. She's got a lot of projects. She's an amazing soul, and
Mm.
we had different goals.
Yeah. Nobu
It's
says
supposed
in
to
the
sound
chat,
way
what
more
was
messy
the
than that.
narrative?
What was that?
Not necessarily. It doesn't have to. He asks, what was the false narrative?
Um,
Mm,
so false
okay.
narrative, like, okay, when I say
Specifically, but
false
like the
narrative,
discrepancy.
sure, when I say false narrative, I mean being something that you're not. It's really important that whatever you do in life, you
Right.
should be in alignment with your own soul and be able to go to sleep at night and feel good about who you are and what you're doing. If you feel like you've worked hard towards accomplishing some kind of a goal or that you belong somewhere, you can't stay where you don't belong. And you should also give the person that you're friends with or that you're close with the same grace. If they're more interested
Mm.
in social spheres rather than, spiritual spheres, it's not a matter of discord. It's just a matter of, okay, I have to be true to myself in order to go live whatever truths that I have and be, like Peter said, we were just on different trajectories. We had different priorities. And Peter and I
Mm.
were very passionate about prioritizing this, and we didn't want to give any time to prioritizing anything else but this.
What would you say, like, is the priority for you guys in this moment? And like with Cosmic Tea and the collaboration that you're doing right now.
Peter, you want to answer that first, or should I?
Why don't you take that and I will follow?
Okay. So Peter and I think it's good to know a little bit about our histories. So I'll let Peter express his, but me expressing mine. So I started working with
Mm.
crystals when I was 2, 3 years old. My aunt had a whole bunch of them, and I would pick hers up and I'd walk around the house with them. And my family, initially, like most people, would go to want to take them away, but they realized I became very protective and agitated when that happened. So instead of trying to go against the grain, they went with it, and they realized I wasn't going to hurt them or anything with them, so they let me have it. That led to me going to my first crystal show when I was 5, and I had a very like energetic, a high energy experience where I like felt a crystal from across the room. I ran towards it, and the woman who was there as the vendor was explaining to my aunt, the reason why your niece only wants this crystal and feels is acting this way with this crystal is because
Mm.
she feels the energy in it, and she's a vibrational reader, and you can help her develop that by keeping crystals around her life. So my aunt went home, told my mom about it, and then every Friday, if I was good, I would get crystals or a book. And that led, when I was reading all these metaphysical books at the time or having them be read to me, they started saying things like, this crystal is associated to a Virgo. And I'd be like, well, what the hell is a Virgo? And then I'd want to go know what a Virgo was. Like, I was very obsessive, even from a very young age, about what what was this information? This resonates on a number 9 vibration. Well, numerologically, well, what's numerology? So at 10, 11, 12 years old, I had already like got into crystals, astrology, numerology, energy healing, Reiki, all these things that people are usually finding in their early 20s. I was finding them by being a preteen. I got into palm reading, and it just kept going. It's always been my passion, to be able to share this with other people, but really just live a life that's packed densely with this. And then when I was in my early
Mm.
20s, I got an inner knowing that I had to go out west. And I actually winded up meeting my master in that time. And then I studied with her. I still study with her. It's been 13 years now. So when I say that I'm passionate, or Peter and I are passionate about this, it's that we eat, sleep, and breathe studying different spiritual information, and always tapping in to be guided and meditating. And, how do we the world is always changing. We're in a time of rapid ascension right now. And if you have a gift that you can feel the energy that's changing, why it's changing, guide yourself through what's changing, and help somebody else out on the way, that's the kind of thing that Peter and I are looking to do with Cosmic Tea Hour. And I think lastly, it's what there was a thought there. I think the idea is that well, my idea before I started Cosmic, when I started zenshine, was I know 100% that God is real. And when I thought about what can I do with my life that would benefit people, how, like, what would be the greatest thing that I can do aside from being love, aside from being a good friend or a good family member? What could I do with my life that I think would make me the happiest and have the greatest impact? And it's that source is real, but whether it's cosmic consciousness, source, Christ consciousness, the I am, it's real. And being able to bridge people to that and teach them how to work with it, because it belongs to everybody. It's inside everybody. It is everybody. Knowing, because it's so helpful and it changes your life for the better in so many ways. So being able to teach people about it and be the provider of crystals and teach people that crystals are so much more than metaphysical properties. They are energies. And when I created zenshine, I really wanted to drive that home to people. And a couple of years later now, starting Cosmic Tea Hour with Peter, it's the same kind of thing. It's how do you work with it? And instead of operating in my neighborhood or operating by teaching workshops and classes, we were like, our conversations are so radical in these areas. We really want to be able to bring this to as many people as we can, and also have the interaction, create this kind of worldwide network where people are interacting and having conversations that are not so mainstream. It's not to live by appearances, but to live by the truth that lives within. And I think that was the goal that Peter and I really had in common, and we took off with it.
Yeah. Like this idea of like ascension and connecting to oneself and letting that like bleed through communities. And I feel
Yeah.
like, well, I'll let Peter, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I wanted to say, just to give a brief background about me and how I ended up in this field. I
Yeah, please.
didn't see it as a gift, but I was born with something called dyslexia, which is very common today, and the treatments were very common today. And I was born with dyslexia, and being born with it, I heard voices when I was younger. And I kept on hearing voices, and they kept on telling me and assisting me on which direction to go in. And I finally went to my parents and I said, I'm hearing people talking to me, and I'm not quite sure what to do with it. And my parents said, maybe we should bring you to a doctor. Now, I went to a doctor, a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist asked me what the voices were telling me. And it was all good. They were telling me that I was going to grow up and I was going to help people and I was going to change lives. So, what had happened at that time, I started reading around the most famous authors that were into spirituality. I started to amass a lot of information. Dr. Wayne Dyer, Bernie Siegel, Louise Hay. I was reading about all these people. I was spending time alone because I was shunned by my peers because of my dyslexia. And I kept on saying to God, I'm reading and I'm doing exactly what you want me to do. What am I going to be doing with this? And as time progressed, and I wanted to make this very lucid. I was directed to studying universal law, the law of attraction, and that the universe was made up of more than what we see in this corporeal setting, which is the physical manifestation. There was also an incorporeal world. So I've studied, I've connected, and then what had happened was for all these years, I've said to myself, I want to help the public and I want to help the universe on a podium. And I want to share this podium with somebody that is as spiritually evolved as I feel I am. And it's taken me years. I met people, I decided that they were wonderful souls. I didn't want to work with them because I didn't feel that they had the same concept of love and benevolence and caring for other people as I had in my heart. And I was a TV producer for many years. I won awards. I worked with some amazing people. And during the programs, I had souls that were coming to me that were giving me information about the guests that we were having on the program. So in the studio, I realized I had this gift, and the guides were coming to me. And after 1,000 shows, I gave that up, and I decided to slowly try. And I decided at that age I was going to manifest because I believe in universal law. And I visualized actually meeting Theresa. I visualized it. I saw the alliance coming in. It's taken a long time. I consider it like a birth. But after so many years of working in show business and wanting to assist people and disseminating spiritual knowledge on a global level and wanting for myself to grow and also for people that were calling into the show to help them grow. I also decided to study astrology because I have a relative that's a professional astrologer, and she said, work at it, become certified. So I did do that as suggested. And then this past year, after doing readings for God knows how many people, I feel myself very fortunate and lucky that I finally met. And I consider Theresa to be an equal in her soul evolution and development because when we speak, it's as if it's one soul coming together in a complete manifestation on a professional level. And we laugh and we can cry and we can just be ourselves. And what's happening now is we're taking all of our gifts and we're pouring it in to Cosmic Tea Hour 999. And I feel my guides are telling me it's going to turn into an amazing podcast.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. That's beautiful. I had a question. Those voices that you were hearing when you were a kid, what'd you make of those? Like, would you consider those like spiritual guides, or were those like ancestors, or something other than that?
They were actually master guides, Julie. They were master guides from a much higher level. And I'll tell you a quick story. When I got older, I was dating a lovely girl. We were together for 5 years. And she said, I want to introduce you to my best friend who is a soul transference channeler. She channels a master guide that is over 2,000 years old. And I went into a session to actually witness what the Hartmer was going to tell me. And when he came through, he told me everything about my life he couldn't have known. He didn't even know. And he said to me, I am going to tell you that all the master guides are incongruent with what you're going to be doing. There's 144,000 master guides that are actually working on in our galaxy right now, trying to help us. And he led me to meet the other master guides. And I may sound a little eccentric, but I had the experience going into the death tunnel many years ago, and I actually met people like Jesus, Buddha. I've met a lot of religious leaders, and because I was so open to their divine knowledge, and I was so open to following what they had said to me, they assisted me in every step of the way of heretofore coming to where we are right now on this radio show.
Wow. How Could you define what a master guide is to you?
A master guide
What's the
is
difference?
a Oh, sure. A master guide is a soul that has passed away and has decided to work on their karmic issues in the spiritual realm, which there are, they told me, they informed me there are about 7 levels that we have to evolve through. The master guides have completed all of the imperfections and all of the mistakes that they made while they were living in the physical incarnation. They have mastered a level where they are blending with what we call the God essence. And they come to us in manifestations of meditation. Everybody can connect with them if they learn how to meditate and still the human mind and fill themselves with divine love. Everybody can connect with them because they are here to show us. We also have angel guides of when we're born, and the angel guides are sent down to us from birth, and they follow us from our birthing until the day we pass. And angel guides are here to assist us if we have any problems, if we're in danger. There is a whole spiritual realm that people that are enlightened can tap into. We are not alone. Even our relatives, our departed relatives, can be assigned in our lives to assist us and become our guides. And I still have my parents who both passed. They're around me, and when I get into any type of trouble, they're there to assist me on the right path and protect me. But we are all capable of calling the guides in.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And people in the chat are agreeing with you too. They've also said that they've heard of the 144 number before. Nobu said, but not in association with master guides before. And I feel like this brings up a question that I had of like, so we have a newer container in here called Signal and Noise. And basically, what's your experience of differentiating between what's like a psychic signal, so like what's a message that's like relevant and like I guess like who it's coming from, like how do you know who it's coming from, versus like what's psychic noise and that like what's something that might be like interference or um yeah, just something that's in the way of or like that clouds the actual message that say your master guides or like master guides that you've connected to are trying to communicate to you. And
Do you mind if
I'm
I
going to allow Theresa to answer that right now.
You're
yeah,
such a
for
psychic.
sure.
I love you. I was like, oh my god, I'm so excited. Please let me start. So I think that we have this thing in our mind, and this comes back to like the teaching part. We have chatter. What we're kind of groomed for in the most simplistic way to describe this is we come from a very high vibrational place, and then we are put into this time-space reality, and it's a denser vibration here than where we come from. Not necessarily saying like heaven, I'm talking more about like higher dimensions, which some people call heaven, so it doesn't really matter,
Right.
that's semantics. But the point is that we come from a much higher vibrational place, and it's love. Here, when we come to the earth school vibration, it's not the match to where we come from. So when we are brought in order to go through the process of we're here, we're born, we have a human experience to be able to understand and experience. And those that have come in as masters, meaning souls that have been born over and over again and are here for enlightenment or obtained enlightenment and then decided to volunteer to come back in here, they have they have to go through this experience and then come up through an awakening. So that process, it doesn't for us to be in an ascended mindset initially. Some people have the door open from a very young age, and some people live as the conditioned self. Whatever our society has deemed us to be appropriate, we are living in that kind of narrative until we have our awakening, whatever age that is. So to answer your question, as a psychic, when you're getting a message, it's like clear voice or knowing or a warm feeling. There's something that's very, you learn what it is based on yourself, what is coming through. It's almost like it's hard to explain a little bit because it's like the person comes through as a color or the person comes through as an energy. When we say things like metaphysical, it means it's vibrating too fast for the physical eye to see, but it still exists somewhere. So metaphysical properties or metaphysical energy is that it's there in energy, but the physical doesn't see it because it's vibrating too fast or the energy of it is too fine, but we can still feel the presence of something that's there with us. So the psychic part of that, that the things that get in the way is often chatter. It's often things that were downloaded into our consciousness from a young age, and we believe those stories, believe what people tell us about some particular subject in the world, or believe what people tell us about ourselves or about others. And then there is the noise that comes with the survival. We have to survive as human beings, or the brain, the monkey mind that goes around and around in circles, creates chatter. Did you see that? Look at that. Do you see what they did? Look what they did. Look what she did. Look what he did. La, 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 la. It's putting space in between thoughts where you can connect with the silent observer within, that gives you peace of mind, that leads to you having that open channel for you to be able to receive. The clearer you get in your truth, where you begin and end, how you can be of the world but not in it, those are the things that allow you to start getting clearer messages. And you know when you're getting a message because it feels welcoming, it feels right, it feels like total alignment, completely, like almost like a matching essence of you. And you get that message, just something inside you knows that that's the truth.
Right. Yeah, thanks for delineating that. I'm curious of if you can expand on like your specific experience of, say, like differentiating that signal like in your body. Like if you can give an example or just like your
Sure.
specific process. Because most of us are psychic here, but you know, everybody has a different way of rummaging through noise and what's noise and what's signal. So yeah, I'd love to hear like an example or a specific situation that you've experienced.
Sure. Okay. I think with mediumship, knowing when someone's particular relative comes through, you know, when you're in the middle of reading someone and all of a sudden you get this sense, there's like an arrival of energy, and it happens so quickly. Like the energy comes in and it's like, oh, this is so and so's grandma, your mom's mother, and the message just almost kinds of strings together. This is your mom's mom, and you were very close to her, and when you were 5 years old, she used to babysit you, and what she wants to tell you is this, and it's like a stream of consciousness that comes through and is the message, and the energy that comes with it, based on the person who is coming through, the energy, it almost expresses itself, to let you know who it is, or there's a warmth or a truth around it where it's like, this is fact. And then when there's chatter or when there's the noise that you're saying, it's like,
Yeah.
I think it's when you have your own ego or fear. Fear is a good one. And I think that's popular in psychics too, especially when you're new to public presentation, where it's like, oh my God, am I good enough? Am I as good as them? Or am I going to get messages? I want my messages to be right. There's a nervousness that comes up that can actually be a block to receiving your messages. I think the calmer you are, the more relaxed you are, the more in your trance state while you're also in a state with others is when you can actually receive your clearest messages. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that
Yeah,
definitely makes sense. And I think people are agreeing with you in the chat. Yeah, Peter, go ahead.
I wanted to say at one point, this is years ago, I worked with one of the most famous mediums in the United States. She has departed. And I said to her, how do you do your readings? And she said, I pray before I do my readings. And there are souls that will come in with a lot of negativity. And I know when they come in to try and block them, because a lot of people that pass that have unresolved conflicts will try to come through and they will try to take over either our thoughts or our actions. And the souls that are very enlightened, as Teresa was saying, there is an innate sense of love, innate sense of peace and harmony. And when they come through, you can pretty much tell because you will be at peace, you will feel loved, and you will feel there will be like a sense of equanimity. So we all have to be very careful about, and there are several souls. There's incubuses and succubuses, and there are souls that will come in to try and fool us and try to win us over and get our attention. So I just wanted to say, before I even call any of my souls in, I pray for in love and guidance and Jesus and God that they are positive souls when they come in to give information.
I think that's the most important part. Sorry to cut you off, Julie, but I think that has to be the most important part before you do a healing, before you do a reading. What is the energy that you're tapping into? And make sure that you are the one setting a stage or setting a foundation of putting a bubble, not from a fear perspective of, um, like, oh, I got to protect myself because of all that's out there. You don't want to empower the dark. You want to empower the light. I'm so grateful
Right.
that we are surrounded by light and love. I'm grateful to our guides for being able to surround us in light and ensuring that the messages that come through are clear and accurate and serve the best and highest good. I ask our guides to surround us and all the messages that come through for blankety blank blank be the most highest divine vibrational frequency. And the other part of that is when you take your vibration serious. And this is Peter and I's lifestyle. We're not telling you who to be or how to be it, but we don't drink. We don't like partake in any kind of drug use or anything like that. We don't run around having like intimate relationships with a whole bunch of people. We really do. We have a diligence, and this is our perspective. Like I said, we have nothing to say about anyone else. This is what we do for ourselves, but we make it a point to cut cords frequently, to pray frequently, to chant Dharma, to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure that we stay in the highest vibration possible, and then also pray on top of it so that when the energies are shifting, like this ascension energy that we're in right now, or when we're in the middle of doing a reading, or when different people with different vibrations come through, we already know to step left before it even is considered, instead of asking where do we need to be, we just already have the intuitive knowing, step left, and we don't even confront it.
Really beautiful. Thank you guys for both sharing that. Yeah, and I feel like what you were talking about before about like certain of what is coming through, I definitely feel like that's a foundation of like being a practitioner, like a duty that from my perspective, like spiritual practitioners should have at the forefront. Because you wouldn't go to a doctor who doesn't know what they're doing, or like any type of like technician. They're not clear on their purpose of like what they're doing. Would you really trust that? And I feel like, yeah, that clarity of like what messages you're able to bring forth to someone, like, it's really important.
What I really love about Peter, I'm sorry, I just want to add to it, or what I love about the practice of Peter and I, and anyone who follows it, is someone who sees it as a responsibility. You're giving messages, and like, I'll give you an example. I had a friend when I lived in Vegas. She was a fellow reader, but before she had become a reader, had gone to a psychic. She was trying to figure out her life. Psychic told her her husband was cheating. And before she really thought twice about it, she went home, got into a big fight with her husband, accused him of cheating before she really knew what had transpired. They got divorced. She lost her house. She lost her kids, all to come and find out that her husband never cheated. The psychic was wrong. And I think that we should, like, to me, I took that as I'm privileged to receive information. I'm privileged with the trust that people put in my hands to give them guidance of the utmost. How can I personally be the utmost of the utmost for people who are seeking my guidance and counsel? I can make sure, what is it that brings our energy low, and what is it that brings our energy high? Love brings our energy high. Having a pure vibration brings our energy high. Making sure to keep yourself around high vibrational people, to think high vibrational thoughts, to consistently clear out any kind of ego and surmount your own personal hurdles. We're not perfect people, but I think when you are very diligent about your practices because you're very passionate about making sure you deliver the best to people, and you see it in the esteem that, like, you just said it's a responsibility to us, the same way if Peter and I were doctors, or we were, a psychiatrist, or any other thing that comes up, because a lot of stuff comes up in readings. People are molested or raped, or they go through heavy stuff. They don't tell anybody. We're the first people to find that out. And I've had that experience firsthand, where it's like, listen, you don't want to talk about these things, but in order to move on with these other questions you have in your life, we're going to need to talk about these things. And I'm going to clear the rest of my day so that you have someone to talk to, so we could sort out where your life's going to go from here. Not just dumping something like, oh, thanks for the hour, dump them on their head. I think we as psychics, or people who do readings, we have a responsibility to do what's for somebody's best and highest good within the best of our ability. Not to overgive, not to partake in somebody that's dedicated to being in a victim state, to know the difference about what to give, when to give it, how to give it.
You said it better, Theresa.
It's really so meaningful to me that Peter and I have that very hard line in common.
Yeah, I know that is very important. Do you guys feel like you're channeling right now? Nobu asked that earlier, and so I'm curious.
I think it's like a default setting where it's like a stream of consciousness that you're always tuned into. And the more,
exactly.
and Peter and I do a lot of different shows and podcasts and like consistent readings. So I think that it's always like humming in the background, and then you're just pulling from it,
Well said.
What about you, Pete?
Yeah, even right now, the guides are with me right now. They're telling me everything is going better than what they expected. And they are saying to me they are with us, and they are going to bring this to much higher dimensions. So I get up in the morning actually visualizing that I'm going to have the most amazing day that I've ever had in my life. And I keep my thoughts clear and positive, and I treat people every day the way I want to be treated, and I create my own reality. And that's what I'm hoping everybody does that's listening in. If they're going through discord and issues in their life, change the recording, change the tape, and visualize your life filled with love, fruition, and unfoldment, and you'll have it.
I think that's another really good point what Peter just said is like you have to know, for your own self, you have to train your mind and you have to you be solution oriented instead of stuck in a victim place. And obviously it's practice in a lot of occasions, but to be there's victims, there's martyrs, there's like four kind of archetypes of people: victim, martyr, savior, and liberator. And the victim is always getting victimized because they're always attracting to. Martyr is giving, overdoing, and then getting resentful and holding expectations or even ideas of controlling someone else based on what they're giving. And the savior is always concerned with saving everybody, so they always wind up getting sacrificed than others. And we kind of go through those modalities until we arrive to the level of consciousness that's like, well, I don't want to go through this anymore. And then you take you getting in alignment with your own energy very seriously, what you do, how you do it, who you do it with. And then that's when you become your most liberated sense of self, because now you are really honoring yourself. You're really loving yourself. And like earlier, when you asked, what are the podcasts all about? How do you do that? How do you get really good at doing that so that you can have a life that is authentic to you? How do you tear off the layers of conditional consciousness that have been imposed on you? Or how do you tell the difference between something that you've been taught and what you actually are? And be able to navigate those differences so that you can step out of the character of who you've been playing and step into who you really are, where you're not here to respond to a reality, you're here to create your reality. Like one of my favorite mantras is now is next, because in the now moment we have the what has transpired because of the past thought, and then we also have the opportunity to decide what the next moment is going to hold. So even if you just repeat to yourself, now is next, in this moment, I might have stepped in a pile of dog poop, but in my next moment, I'm gonna have a clean shoe.
Amen to that.
Right?
Thank you. Thanks for sharing all that. I definitely agree. And when you were talking about like the victim, the martyr, and the savior, those concepts, it was reminding me of dramas, which I read about in the Celestine Prophecy. It's a book. I forget the author's name.
I love that book.
But you've read that book? Do you know what I'm talking about? With the control drama? Yeah. Yeah, it was reminding me of that. And I feel like that is really important, of like really real with like what does move your body day to day, and like what moves your spirit day to day, and like is it truly you, and like truly the spirit that transcends the body that you're in now, or like that will be here when our body might not be here. Yeah, so thank you for that. I just want to check in with y'all. How y'all feeling?
Wait a minute, what?
I just want to check in and like how you guys are feeling. It is 8:30 right now. Just want to make sure, like, just be conscious of like time and stuff.
Okay.
Feeling good? Do you guys want to answer a few more questions?
I'm up for it. If Pete's okay with it? Pete, you're okay with it?
Yeah, I could answer a couple more questions, and yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah, I think. Let me see.
I like Nobu's question. I'd still like to...
Are you talking about the evolution one?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
In the beginning? No, it's okay. That's the one that I was like gonna ask. Because I have something similar written down. I'm just looking for his message to read it aloud. Let's see. Yeah, so in the beginning of the call, in the chat, Nobu says, I'm so curious to hear about how y'all have seen the spiritual industry change over time, and what y'all feel the relationship between spiritual practitioners and the mainstream looks like over the next 5 to 10 years. So yeah, like how do you feel like inform like human evolution? Like, is it necessary? Has it changed?
So can you repeat the question one more time just to like get the wording out?
Yeah. So how has the spiritual industry changed that you guys have seen over time? What do you feel like the relationship between spiritual practitioners and the mainstream looks like over the next 5 to 10 years? So how do you feel
Can I
like it'll evolve?
can I interject something there? I wanted to say
Please.
many people that I work with over the past, God, 5 or 6 years, they called themselves mediums, they called themselves psychics, they called themselves whatever they wanted to call. A lot of them are not doing it anymore because there was an influx of people that decided that they were going to label themselves and start practicing and start giving readings. And I'm finding through people that I'm connected with another podcast also with a friend of mine that eventually Teresa is going to be brought into also. But if you truly are gifted and you have the gift, I am noticing now astrologically, I'm seeing this. The planetary changes in the energy, we all are becoming more empathic. We are all becoming more psychic. Einstein said that time is speeding up, which it is. A year is now manifesting in a month. So time is speeding up, but we are all becoming in the trajectory of evolving into our higher selves, as Theresa was putting it earlier, and more people that are truly have the gift are showing it and they're helping the public. And it has turned into kind of a carnival that I've seen heretofore. I go on to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and everybody now overnight is claiming to be a medium, a psychic, whatever. A lot of people are going by the wayside, and I think we all have gifts that we were given from God. Too many people are coming on, and I've been with them on the radio and TV, claiming to be psychic and mediums, and you can tell it's not there. So I just want to say there is a turnaround now, and more people I know are writing books about it. But the way I have found to ascertain if somebody is truly gifted is I read the write ups, I read the reviews, I read their books, and I can tell from the testimonies if the person has a following, and if they've had no legal issues at all, then I will seek out their attention. But a lot of people have gone through legal problems, and I follow, as Theresa was saying earlier, about differentiating between the different souls and spirits. If somebody has been written up in the newspaper and they do have a following, that's what I see unfolding in the next 4 or 5 years.
Feel like a little different than Peter because I always go with my gut. I don't care what's in the newspaper. I care about what my energy reads about somebody. You could be somebody who's just starting out or somebody who's been in the business for a really long time. And if I meet you, I'm going to feel your energy out and know how, what word choice do you have? Where's your energy coming from? What are your belief system? When people use like negative words or start, oh well, I see that there's like an energy. So my vantage point is usually dimensionally inclined when there's a difference between taking lower fourth energy and high fourth energy. They're two different places. Lower fourth
Yes.
people kind of stuck in a box. It kind of preys on people. And it wants to have some degree of control over you. You need me, keep coming back week after week. I want you to have this. Where high fourth is like, I want you to have the guidance, but it's all about free, and it's all about love, and it's all about high vibration. And high fourth leads to fifth. So somebody's energy, you can't, the more sensitive you are, whether that's empathic or not, which is not always a benefit to be empathic. And like one of the first things because I used to be very, very, very empathic. And my Buddha masters, one of the things that we crossed the bridge with was, it's not beneficial to you to be empathic. It's not beneficial to you to get messages through being so empathic, because you could accidentally take on somebody else's stuff. So ask your guides to give you your messages in a different way. Because what used to happen is I would walk into a room and say someone just had elbow surgery. This was true story. I walked in the room and my elbow became in excruciating pain. And I was like, oh, okay, I have messages to go deliver. And I looked around the room for the person who it belonged to, walked up to them and was like, don't know who you are, don't know if you want these messages, but you are going to get them because I need to get rid of this elbow pain. I gave him all the messages that were coming through. And as I gave him the messages, the pain in my elbow began to recede. And I knew when I had given him the last message, my elbow stopped hurting. But it was as if I'm the one who had had the surgery. It was so abrasively painful. And then when I gave all the messages, it went away. And she said, if you keep up like that, what's next? Right now it's elbow pain, but what about when you deal with cancer patients or you deal with people who have severe psychiatric trauma? What happens then? It's so important to make sure that your guides are giving you messages in a way that's conducive to you. And she taught me, ask your guides, because my biggest fear was that I was going to lose the ability to give messages, but I trusted her. So when I did ask for my guides to come through differently, my gifts changed. I became less empathetic, less in getting messages through my physical body, and more in hearing, clairaudience, clairsentience. It was a knowing, it was a sight, it was a smell, and it was being able to hear things or be part of conversations that are nonverbal communication, but you're having the inner dialogue. I think that that's another thing to keep in my mindset.
Oh, I wanted to
Elbow
add,
was
if I
already
could.
hurting. Repeat, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Oh, I just wanted to add something. I agree with what Theresa was saying about how she chooses a reader. And I wanted to clarify something. The reason I mentioned about, if somebody has been written up or whatever, about 7 months ago, I received a call from a client, and he said to me, what do you charge for your sessions? And I told him privately, how much I charge. And he said, I wanted to find out that, because if you were written up, it means that you must be good. It's not always the case. And I agree with what Teresa's saying about sensing that person and knowing. But when the person came for the reading, I found out that during the reading, all these people were coming in. Joan Rivers came in, and two other people came in that I won't mention. When they came through to me to give information to this person, they said, why do you think these people are coming through? I said, I have no idea. And he said, they were personal friends of mine. I said, what does Prince Charles have to do with you? At that time, he was a prince, he wasn't a king. And the client said to me, he's one of my best friends. So the reason I mentioned about reading about some people, if you start reading at a different level, I mean financially, people are going to want to know if they're spending their money for a session, if you're worth it, if the information is true. I have been to readers in the past that I didn't read about, and they were incredible when I showed up. They gave me information that was right on target. So that's why I brought in more of the media, because the higher echelons or the wealthy millionaire want to be associated with you if you have books or you have articles out. That's the way they think, and that's their mindset. So it is a little different than the average person going for a reading.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think it's like a little bit of a like a double edge almost, because on one hand you can have somebody who's very gifted and word of mouth is amazing for them and it's all true, and then you could have someone who has an excellent marketing team and puts them out there whether they're talented or not, and it's always up to you who's getting the reading, or you who's in front of the person who is, you know, claiming what it is that they can or can't do, for you to be able to decipher it from your gut. And you know,
Correct,
like
and I agree
there's
with that.
even just in this, you know, we just named 4 different things that are going on simultaneously between Pete and I, but there's so much more to it. And like this, like everything that we talk about here is exactly why we have the podcast. When you go get a reading, what should you know about the person you're getting a reading from? And even to get back to the question, was like, what is it? Where is it? What the next evolution of people, the people that you've seen versus now. In my opinion, I think there were the teachers that were around when I was growing up seemed like they were so in their game. They really practiced, they studied, they understood crystals were metaphysical, but they understood that crystals were energy. You had Native American culture, you had people that were really practicing, you had schools that were metaphysical schools. Remote viewing, like Angela Ford is one of Peter's friends. We were able to have her on the podcast recently, and she was a remote viewer in the Cold War. So the people who were
Yes.
like, are psychics even real? She's taking visions of the submarines that the Russians built, drawing out what that submarine looked like to the US, and they were able to find that submarine and hit them before Russia hit us. And these are factors that go into the fact that we were able to always have the upper hand. So psychics are definitely real, but you want to know who they're getting their energy from. And
Correct.
I feel like now looking at some practitioners, aside from, okay, it's awesome that it's so mainstream, you know, you people can be a Reiki master or they can do these things, but it's like, again, I use double-edged sword, but I really would prefer to say something else. It's like, have these people who are, I'm a Reiki master. I did a 5-minute drive-through. I went to McDonald's. I got my shake, my burger, my Reiki certification, and I'm out. But on the other hand, you know, there's more people than ever before who it's more mainstream and more loud and more palpable this way because the energy in the world. Like if you think 10 years ago, you didn't have Buddha on the shelf at Walmart, but now you do, because the consciousness, the collective consciousness has raised where we are incorporating these things so much into our mainstream society that now Buddha's on the shelf at Walmart. Now you can get your incense at Walmart. And one last thing is, like with certain practitioners, I think that you have like people who metaphysicals, or where you can go get your supplies from. I think there's a non-verbal kind of assumption that these are more spiritually based places. But if you're selling crystals based strictly on metaphysical properties, or you have supplies, but you're not teaching people how to use those supplies or explore those supplies, then you are in fact a tool shop more than a spiritual hub. So I
Yes.
think that to me is, people I think in the past took who were practicing, maybe took their practices more seriously, and then you have now on the other side of it that it's much more mainstream, and now you, like the same way we have information overload, we have so many people to pick from or navigate through because everybody's tapping into it. And I think that everybody is gifted. We all have a gift. It's just how developed is that gift and how strong is our awareness of those gifts. So I had a lot to say on that question, I know, but thanks for your patience.
No, thank you for sharing. So do you feel like there's certain knowledge or certain like spiritual practices that should be gate kept? Like I feel like gatekeeping is a word that's like kind of buzzing around certain spaces and not just like spiritual spaces. But do you see like the benefit in gatekeeping? certain spiritual practices for that reason, almost like to protect those like lineages or those practices?
I think that a lot of lineages, like when I got baptized into Buddhist, my lineage was esoteric for many years in order to protect the lives of those who were practicing. And the Dalai Rulai, the holder of our lineage, made a conscious decision to, after meditating and being guided, his guides coming to him, to make the Dalai Rulai temple public, and then also start allowing certain dharmas to become public, like medicine Buddha, because he said the people of this world and the changes that we're walking into are the dharmas that were once esoteric, people are now going to need. And so I think that in some lineages, depending on what the content is and the power it can yield, some things belong to still be esoteric or honored by those who are gatekeeping. But at the same time, same way with Peter. Peter will channel something brand new and share it with me. Or, I'll say something to Peter, we pick up a message at the same time. And I think that, as soon as we get the message, or like recently, the energy is shifting very strongly, very quickly. Peter and I have been having conversations about what's been transpiring on an energetic level for the past 3 weeks as we feel it. We're making sure to write that in real time into what we're sharing on the podcast so that we can say, like, our next podcast is August 1st. Because we've been feeling the biggest shifts in the past 2 weeks, we're writing that into what we're going to share, because we're not the only ones who are feeling it. So if we're not the only ones who are feeling it, what's the best guidance that we can give? Or, hey, you're not alone out there. We're feeling this. What are you feeling?
Right. Yeah. Having that community too.
I have a lot of people that are calling up depressed, anxious, confused. They don't know where they belong. They don't know where they're going. This is all classes. It's a classless phenomena that is going on. People are trying to figure out, with all of the astrological configurations, conjunctions, and where should they go? Should they leave their job? Should they keep their job? More people, because the pandemic and the COVID-19 situation have changed. They are not going back to working in companies. They're working from their homes. We actually, our whole society, because of the cosmic energies, we're going through drastic changes right now, and people are frightened and they're not quite sure how to pick up their lives and proceed. But if they go inside and they listen to their soul and they meditate and with love, they will have the answer. So we're in major transformations right now, globally. It's not just the United States, it's globally.
Say that, like, this is the biggest, for lack of better words, like transformation or like spiritual evolution that you've witnessed in your lifetime?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I grew up in the 50s with
Definitely.
the white picket fence, and we
Without
don't have that anymore.
question.
Look, people are struggling now. I mean, I'll defer this also to Theresa, but we have to redefine our goals, our aspirations, and what we want. And also, how are we going to evolve spiritually? How are we going to come together collectively as a world, not as just the United States, but as a world, and work together to achieve God's work? That's the way I look at it. I don't separate myself from Russia, China, Japan, Korea. I see all these people as God's children, and we all have to work together. And that's another thing that I want to work with Theresa on the podcast. It's not isolated just to the United States.
His reflection on the question from before, and he said, it sounds like one interpretation would be that people's lives are changing will cause spirituality to become more integrated and available in their awareness.
Yes.
Does that feel
Definitely.
accurate to you guys?
Yes.
That's very accurate.
Yeah.
Like, I think one of the, like, you know, I have a metaphysical, I'd say, physical business. Actually, before I get into that, I think if we need to understand that everything physical is actually spiritual, and that our energy and spirit create the things physical. And that's why if we develop our spirituality or our spiritual practices, and like I would interchange the words energy practices and spiritual practices, it leads into personal development, and our personal development leads into our professional development. And in the beginning of the year, Forbes wrote an article that said 84% of people who had jobs in light of what has happened worldwide were leaving their jobs, contemplating starting a new job. And it was the first time in years that corporations were rattled and said, we have to do something. We have to give people better work environments. We have to have gyms and to meditate and to not be so, you know, maybe it's a 4-day work week. And you began to see that we entered into a very big shift right at this beginning of the year. And we can see that ripple effect, that it's still going, and it's nowhere near done. It's going to keep going.
Yeah. Before I close the container, because we do have Nobu is hosting tea at 9. I just want to open the space to any other members of the broom, if they want to ask any more questions or add anything. And if either you or Peter would like to add anything else.
Question that you had here, where Nobu said it's here about the evolutional practice over your 30 years, Peter. Where no to like, more like, how did it evolve? How did, from where you were younger, you are now, how was that evolution?
With my spirituality? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, like you get messages, or yeah, like the way you work with your guides, or kind of messages.
I get messages from my spirit guides. They come through with symbols. I'm very much aware when I look at the clock. If I see a master number, 222, 111, 444, I know my guides are here with me. Those numbers, double numbers, are messages from the angels and the guides. So I'm aware that I'm supposed to be listening, and I actually see myself as I consider myself a receptor. I don't believe that I have my own, if you want to call it my own mortal brain. Even though I was born immortal, I do see myself as a receptor. If I align my thoughts and thinking with the divine energy, as Nicole Tesla, the brilliant scientist, said, inventor, energy, frequency, and vibration. Every day I meditate to align myself with the messages. And then, if they're positive messages, I write them down. I have changed over the past 20 to 30 years because my ego, when I was younger, was always getting in the way and telling me I can do this and I can achieve this. And I finally decided, after many years, I think it was in my early 50s, I was exhausted from doing things my own way. I was exhausted from listening to my id, my super id, my ego. And I decided at that point to defer and align myself with universal law. And I also connected with many of the authors in the I'm at a loss now with the book that came out, The Secret. I've worked with a lot of those authors, and they just said to me, Peter, let go of your ego, let go of that strong mortal sense of self. And I gave to the guides what I wanted to achieve in my life for the betterment of society, not for Peter's ego, but the betterment of society. And over the years, as I let go and I projected love and I wanted to see everybody around me achieve their goals, and I was there to assist them, A lot of the goals that I had, a lot of the things that I was attempting to achieve have taken place. They didn't take place because Peter with his ego wanted them. They took place because the universe wanted others to understand the knowledge that I've learned. And I wanted to say also, every day that I talk to Theresa, I'm going to be 70 years old. She has taught me so much. Her wisdom, her knowledge, her life experience. She is an amazing soul. And in many cases today, that's why I defer to Theresa, because I say, let her fly. Now is her time to fly and let people know how magnificent she is.
Aw, shucks.
Thanks for sharing that. Is there anything like specifically that you've noticed with the public's like receptivity to spirituality that has changed over those last like 35 years?
That's your question, Peter.
Go for it, Theresa. What?
She's asking you, Jen, was about how the public is receiving spiritual practices and how it's changed over the last 30 years from your perspective.
Oh, from my perspective, years ago, people came to me and they were telling me they were Catholic, Protestant, Lutheran, Episcopalian, Christian Scientists, Jehovah's Witnesses. And I would say, all right. And they would say to me, well, my priests, the nuns, the rabbis, the Jesuits all told me that this was the devil's work, that I shouldn't be here. And then I would say to them, then why are you here? And they said, because we are not getting the truth from secular organized religion. I believe more people today are tired of being controlled, tired of the indoctrination that they have received since they were little children, because they don't believe in the pedagogy that society and the churches are are teaching the masses. And more people are becoming disillusioned with the churches on their precepts, and you have to live your life this way. I don't mean to cast any dispersion on any religion, but religions to me
Yeah.
are a form of control. I haven't found a religion today that hasn't had their modalities and methods of control. Today, people want to be empowered. They want to truly know who they are, why they're here, what force, what higher being put them here. And more people, and I wanted to say this to you, more people are becoming educated. 20 to 30 years ago, they would just accept what the government or the religions told them. The more education you have, the more you are going to challenge what society tells you. So I have found out more of my clients are educated, more the women that I am working with have become empowered because they're going back to school, they're getting their masters, they're getting their doctorates. More women are self-sufficient today. So society has changed. More and more people that I am addressing today want the truth. They don't want what the churches are telling them. They want to know what the truth is through spirituality. And they come to me and they say to me, I don't know if my ego's talking or if the spirits are talking or the angels. And I tell them if it's good, if it's there to help them grow, if they are being told to become more aware in the metaphysical world, to listen to that voice and to go with it. So, absolutely, there have been changes from my point of view over the past 30 years.
What used to be a fear, like if they felt something they were if the good thing would continue, because the ideology is like, well, the devil is quite tricksy. The devil's going to give you something good to make it seem like something is good, and then it's going to take that goodness away, and the rug's going to be pulled from under you, and before you know it, you're going to find yourself here in the depths of hell working for the devil instead of the big man upstairs. I think there was like a lot of narratives that really pushed fear rather than empowerment. And as the world has continued in an ascension process in raising the consciousness, as people are sitting in any part of the world, whether it's money, with the family, in church, and Peter and I are not anybody who's religious, Catholic, Christian, Protestant, Jewish, whatever you are, you're good where you are. Enjoy where you are. If it works for you and it feels whole, that's your path. But there are some people who are sitting there laying in the bottom of a box and seeing that there was light in the corner and saying, I need to know what that is. And I'm not getting it from I'm not getting it from my mom and dad. I'm not getting it from my family. I'm not getting it from my friends. I'm not getting it from my priest. And they are looking for something next. What is next? What is I feel inside? I can't fill it with anything that I currently know about in my life. So what is it that I'm craving? And then they start looking for more until they come to a place where they find the right book, the right teacher, the right piece of music, the right form of education, whatever works for them, whatever's going to get them to align with who they are. They find it. That's what gives them peace. That's what gives them wholeness. That's what gives them, I'm on the right place in my life and on my journey. And now I'm going to start from this place. And that's what that awakening I was talking about earlier comes from, is that when we begin to, the awakening happens first inside. That's why it's so important to go within, because when we feel the awakening happening, challenges what the very fabric of our reality and what we know and who we know ourselves to be. And source takes over, and incrementally or rapidly or all at once, we get kicked in the head saying, time to wake up, time to go somewhere else, time to go look for, time to go align with. And if it wasn't for Peter and I both listening to that and saying, you know what, I can't go by what somebody else has taught me. I have to be led by this voice inside. That's what gets you to rendezvous with who you're meant to, when you're meant to, how you're meant to. And the journey keeps unfolding. It's a surreal, beautiful, miraculous experience, but you learn that that's what the truth is, and anything else, it's kind of an indoctrined form of what it is they tell you that you are rather than what you really are.
The last thing that's coming up for me is, why now? Why do you guys feel like this is all happening in this moment in terms of like spiritual evolution?
Why now is what? Can you clarify that? What do you mean by why now?
Like, why is the ascension happening now? Why is the energy changing now? Why is the world as we know it changing now?
Oh, the way it's
From your
changing
perspective.
now, and this may shock some people, and I've been witness to this. If we continue the earth the way we are living our lives now, if we continue on this path, ecologically, pollution, man is so brilliant that we are in the process of destroying ourselves and our planet. So why now is, if we don't change the course, and I know this for a fact, so what I'm about to say may surprise some people, but we do have other beings from other galaxies that are coming to visit Earth now, and they saved us thousands of years ago from destroying ourselves through Sodom and Gomorrah. They have come back because man has reached a pivotal point in our society on every level, that we have the atomic bomb, we have nuclear weapons, we have countries, if you press the wrong button or the right button, it could totally annihilate our Earth. And why now is because if we don't do something, we're going to find ourselves, I believe, in spiritual form very, very quickly. And I do believe also these wonderful scientists, I mean, Elon Musk and other people, Larry Ellison, are all looking towards other planets for us to travel to. I don't think it's something out of a George Orwell novel. I think we are at a time where our food supply, we each, when we get up in the morning, we're eating foods that can be toxic. We're bringing in air that is filled with particles, that is found, it was filled with chemicals that we are ingesting. So right now, and why is it happening? We have to change. We have to come together to save our planet and also to save our civilization, because another example that we're all witnessing, we have more crime today. With the NRA, guns are more available. You read every day on the news people taking guns to schools and to stores. We are becoming like the Wild West of shooting, destroying people. I mean, this is not why God has placed us here. So, why now is actually, from my point of view, and the guides are agreeing, we have to go back and recognize why we're here, why we were put here. And I believe that is to support each other, love each other, and to create an environment where the next generation can be born and to raise our children. We are at a pivotal point of saving ourselves.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to bring up in the chat, Nobu says, Earth has got a fever from my perspective.
Earth has a what?
Like, which I agree with. It has a fever.
Earth, it does have a fever, but that fever is coming from planetary energy and the Earth core. You know, we have we're destroying our forests, and we're digging up in our forests, and there are parasites and viruses coming from out there. The earth is spitting out what we have done to it, and it's saying no more. The Mother Earth is a living, absolutely. I mean, I've spoken to Angela Ford even about the sightings of there's more sightings now because of extraterrestrial beings, and they're coming back forward. What we are doing,
Like
they're
Earth
coming
has a
back.
fever.
I'm going to, unfortunately, I have to do certain things to get I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. So I'm going to have to leave soon, but this was an amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you both for being here. This was a lot of fun. I'm really glad that you guys were able to come on the podcast. And I hope you're able to explore around the broom. And maybe we'll have you back.
Absolutely.
Is
It
there
was
anything that
wonderful to be here.
I'll read aloud what she said in the chat. She says, I think it's internal and external. Why it's now, it's the Earth, but it's also going on outside of Earth.
Well, cosmically, it's also happening because when I look at the energies from the planets and I look at the planet configurations, we are all going through an evolution spiritually. And the guy just saying to me also, people are getting tired of not being able to live their lives and to be happy and raise their families. We want something better. We want to have a future that we can be optimistic about and look forward to. I don't know about you and Theresa, but for the past couple of years, we've been at a standstill.
I said it's an internal and an external thing that's on right now. Like everything
Yes.
is correct. We need to be mindful of what's going on in the world, and we need to change. But I think it's also beyond.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you, Peter. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, dear.
Yeah, it looks like Theresa can hear us. I'll read aloud what she's saying in the chat. She says, Earth is going through ascension just as we are. The light workers came in to assist the Earth in raising her vibration.
Okay, that sounds like a wonderful explanation.
Thanks for that. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna close the container now. Yeah, thank you again for being here.
Thank you for
And
having us.
I hope to see you guys around. Yeah,
All
you're
right, thank you.
welcome.
Have a great day. Have a great night.
Thanks, Peter. Thank you,
Thank you.
Theresa.
Bye-bye.
Hi, folks. You have just listened to a Broom Radio production hosted by Julie, aka Just Juju, interviewing Zenshine and Peter Marks for Dojo. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to support the Broom, please don't hesitate to see the links at the bottom of this episode. And we hope that you sincerely enjoyed this dojo episode. Thank you and peace.